Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Oh, welcome back, everybody. Life is good. Now, many of us will maybe dispute that at times in our life when we go through some challenges, and we all have them. But for the most part, life is good. If we see it that way and we think it that way, it shall become that way. And we've talked about that
Mhm.
before here, manifestation and the energy flows where the attention goes. We're going to talk about opening
Absolutely.
up to help, opening up to receiving what is good to those that want to help us. And it's actually chapter 4 in her book, which is called Love Yourself, Love Your Life. And she's back with us, an amazing psychologist with so much insight. Dr. Ann Creekmore is here. How you doing today?
Great, Steve. How are you?
Fantastic, and loving this chapter. And
Oh, thanks.
I'm gonna skim forward to a quote, and it's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And it says, the true measure of a man's mental health and happiness is his ability to see good everywhere.
Correct. Yes.
Now, I think about that, and I agree 100% with it.
hmm
How do you do it? How, and I truly mean not putting on the rose-colored glasses and pretending everything's
hmm
great. Everything's great. I'm just a
hmm
robot and everything's great. No, truly meaning that, yeah, there is good here. There's challenges. I get it. How do you refocus your mind to believe that things are good?
Well, um, one of the therapies, the main therapy, effective therapy, is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is cognitive meaning your thoughts, training your thoughts to be healthy, training your thoughts and your perceptions to focus on the good, essentially. To catch the negative thought, and if it wasn't something you'd say to a friend or family, say, wait a minute, I'm not saying that to me because it's going to make me feel down. I'm going to say what I would say to uplift someone. So catching your thoughts or prayers, catching your thoughts and training them to be healthy, so that you will then feel, energized to create good, to behave in a way that will turn the situation into a good one. So it's really the main thing.
So within here, you compare a person to a TV set and a TV repair person coming by to fix it. Uh,
Mhm.
are we talking about therapy here?
Correct. Right, because when you think about it, that as a therapist, we can't see all the details of, like, we could see a television,
Hmm.
and open it up and work on it and the wires and so on, the tubes. We have to kind of go with what the person is telling you, your observations of the person when they're talking to you, their history, what that means. It's all kind of invisible,
Sure.
and so that's what I meant. It's not as easy. So what we really need is the client to come open, to really share, what's going on with them so that we can understand what's going on and then help.
It really is true when you think about it, because as a therapist, you don't know. You're not inside somebody's head. You can't, there's only so far you can go. You have to listen to what they're saying and then understand it, process it, and then provide them with some kind of insight, on how to move their life forward. Discover
Exactly.
inner peace. Discover inner peace.
Mhm.
I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. It is. It
Yeah.
is the most important.
How do you define it?
How would you define it, Steve? I think we've talked before and you've done a good job. How would you define it?
Um, a a feeling of calm where you have faith in yourself, where you trust yourself, and when things get kind of crazy, you're still, I'm good. Yeah. That that's not going to be easy. I know it, but I'm good with
Right.
it.
Right.
It's just that feeling of, I guess, like you've got your own back. Nobody's
Absolutely.
gonna love you better, take care of you better, trust you better than yourself, of yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We've, kind of, and I like to have that kind of focus in my practice as a therapist, where we focus on mind, body, spirit, inner peace. That's kind of that sacred spot within yourself. That is a feeling of just being good, connected to good, to
Hmm.
being,
Yeah, yeah.
at peace. And so all of them are important, what's on your mind and, helping your mind and your physical health, all those in order to feel happy, you got to, have a clear, positive thoughts. You've got to be feeling physically well. And then we got to go to our inner, our sacred space of inner peace and good, just feeling connected to the good. And then, then you'll continue to create good because you're at that place when you start.
Once
I
again,
can give you, yeah.
it's
Mhm.
not easy. It's not easy,
It's not easy.
and it's not an
Yes,
overnight thing. It's a process of once you, I guess the best way to describe it, once you figure yourself out,
right.
what's important to you, the values in your life, I don't think you can do it alone though.
Hmm.
I don't think you can. There needs to be help from
Right.
somebody else to help you dissect these certain things, or different modalities, whether it's CBT,
Absolutely.
therapy, whatever it is.
Right. Because a lot of, what we think isn't really, feelings are not facts, or our interpretation of situations are not always accurate. When we come from a place of some things that triggers from our past, we're bringing that into the present situation, and it's going to kind of play havoc with the situation, and you're not going to be able to relate to seeing the good in it. So, like in therapy, you can kind of figure out your triggers, or work through grief, or work through, certain traumas that you've had, so that they don't come into your current situation, and
I'm a
then you
firm
can kind of be
believer
clear.
in the
Hmm.
facts, the
Uh-huh.
truth of everything, every situation, because you can't deny that, and the facts, I feel the truth always sets you free, no matter what it is.
Right,
You
right,
have,
but then go ahead.
oh, I just saw something here. Daily spiritual and religious practice. And we kind of skimmed that in the past, but how do you define that?
Well, I mean, of course, if you are, have a certain religion or certain spirituality, then you would be, doing those practices that would kind of be bringing you back to God, if you will, to the higher power, to the universe, whatever, however you conceive of that, and your highest self, whatever practices work for you, and consistent with your beliefs, that you would do them on a regular basis, with the goal being to get to that sense of goodness, and that's the peace coming from that place of peace and good.
How does therapy work and how does it not work? That's also in this chapter.
Yeah. Um, well, so I was thinking of that joke that we were talking about the light bulb, right? With the what many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh,
You get it, and where it takes only one, but it takes a long time, and the light bulb has to really want to change.
yeah. Well, the key
So,
point, key point there. It really is. If you're
right.
not, if you're not open to it, and here's an example. I suggested hypnotherapy because it's one of the things that worked well for me.
Absolutely.
I suggested it for somebody I'm very close to, and hypnotherapist was fantastic. I just know they've got the skills, the credential, all of that. And the person I suggested it to did some sessions and then said, it's not working. For me, it's a waste of money. She doesn't, it's ridiculous. No, no, no. And I said, you didn't allow it to work. And I'm
Hmm.
firmly convinced. And this person's personality, I kind of know, um, that they probably had blocks up and wasn't really allowing it to work. But to your point,
Right.
you have to want it to work.
Right. And you have to be really open to the good. I mean, if you're in there thinking, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work, I can't do this, I wouldn't know how to do this, then that obviously is going to be a block to the hypnosis working. But if, you understand that basically the hypnosis is just kind of going into a meditation, kind of following your breath and getting yourself to theta to alpha or theta, depending how deep you go at this level where you're kind of open, receptive. You're not controlling, you're not at beta, the high frequency action, brain waves. And then what you hear, you're going to absorb, because you're open to it. And sometimes it doesn't work the very first time, anyway. I mean, it works, but maybe not completely, or maybe it works and it didn't quite last. So it's recommended, for example, professionals know the right way to do the different things is like do the hypnosis for 4 to 6 weeks in a row, for a little 15-20 minute guided imagery session, every week. And then it really starts to stay and stick with you. So, but you have to kind of stick with it too, to have that, and you have to let yourself be open to the good, because if you're in that negative mindset, of course, then it's gonna. In fact, the reason the hypnosis often works is because that when you are relaxed, you'll just receive and absorb and be open to help. Whereas if you're not, you're just thinking about something, you'll think, oh, I can't do that. I mean, I'm not good at that. I mean, I procrastinate, or I do this. I'm not gonna, And then, of course, it's not. You've talked yourself out of it working. You've gone to the
Ah,
negative thinking, and
that's a
then you're
good
not
one.
open. Yeah.
And that's a good one. You talked
Mhm.
yourself out of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the issue with most things, that we kind of go in with a certain mindset, talking ourselves out of the good, seeing coming from a place of fear versus love. And then we create what we expect, and or we talk to ourselves in a way and create what we've told ourselves already. We're like stuck in the past, and instead of open to the present moment and creating the good right then.
And, disclaimer here, we know it's not easy. It's, yeah, if it was, everybody'd be, jumping into therapy, doing this, doing that, and then everybody would be perfect. Everything's wonderful. It can be, but you
Yeah,
have to give it some time and you have to open up. And any kind of therapy, even hypnotherapy, it gets personal in some ways, and it can,
sure.
sometimes be a little uncomfortable. But I use the analogy: you have to go through the birth canal, which can't be great for a baby, to get to the other side.
Mhm.
Um,
Right, right.
yeah, truth be
But
told, that hypnotherapy that I did, um, now there were tears. There was,
which
seeing,
is great. Get that out,
yeah,
90 toxins and sad tears compared to 10 and happy tears. So you're cleansing emotionally, chemically, physically. It's a good thing. And they're just feelings, it's not going to hurt you and it's going to go away. So just let it out and then feel better.
yeah, and it will help you understand better what's going on in your mind and why these things from your past are still, and we've talked about that before, how much of our past really kind of dictates our current, situation and or future. Once you realize that, it's like, well, all right, well, all right, now I got to work with that. That's what I got to work with, and then be open to it.
Exactly. You just because it's kind of like the process of change. You got to know where you are first, and then where you'd like to go. Because if you deny where you are, or what's going on, you're not going to get to the place you want to go, because you don't even know where you are to begin with. So, so it's kind of that process of accepting yourself and where you are, and then moving to where you want to go, taking the actions to go where you want to go. And
How
I
do
know that.
you,
Go ahead.
in terms of what you do, how do you decide what is going to work for somebody? Is it just realizing their story, their situation, where they might be stuck, their personality, and then you decide, all right, this modality is going to be best. We're going to go in this direction. How do you, as a therapist, make that decision?
Well, I start the first session is an intake session, a clinical evaluation session. And so I do a lot of asking questions, questionnaires, getting their full history in every aspect of their life, educational, relationship, legal, psychiatric, medical, family, all their symptoms all these years, what's worked for them, if they had therapy, which type, what worked for them, and so on. Basically, but then by the second session, I can kind of, if you will, diagnose. Of course, that's the really what we're supposed to be doing at first, not just chatting, because we don't know what underlying issues. Is this really anxiety and depression as they've been told all along? Or is this actually a bipolar depression, a moody depression, an up and down depression where when the manic juices go up a little bit, they feel the anxiety or irritability. So you try to, as a therapist, make these decisions or these understandings of what really they have going on to begin with. Do they have some sort of addictive process going on, a substance use disorder of some kind? And that's causing all these problems they brought in, like some relationship problems and work problems. In other words, get to the root functioning when you first, meet them and just have that time to just understand them. You could write a book about them, if you had to, after a time or two. So you really understand them deeply. And then where are the areas they'd be stuck in is a good way to put it, so they could get the help in that area. So then the therapy is focusing on healing whatever are those stuck areas, as well as helping them and applying it to their problems in living that they bring in, to help them get that. And then as you do both, then they'll be able to change their relationships or whatever stressors they're in.
Have you ever met somebody on a therapy level where you've said either to them or yourself, like, I don't think I can help them?
Hmm. Well, no.
Hmm,
No, I mean, I've been doing this a long, long time. And I don't ever feel negative that I couldn't help them. If they wanted to participate, I think I kind of know what would be the right treatment protocol that I've been trained in that I'm supposed to provide. And
sure.
I don't just rely on myself as well. I refer out a lot to different resources. Like, I know there can be not only like, oh, they don't want to go because of a stigma in mental health. I think that's kind of passing. People realize everyone's got stuff.
Right.
Everyone should go and do self-discovery and enjoy having a happy, fulfilled life. But then sometimes there's not money for, co-pays or something, or they got a big deductible. But there are, EAPs through employers. You can get free sessions through the Employee Assistance Program if you ask your employer. There's often, like I mentioned, like if in cases of addiction, they have all the support groups for every type of addiction, Narcotics
Mm.
Anonymous, Alcohol Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Codependents Anonymous. You get them hooked up with the different groups and they're making friends and everybody's working on things together. And then working with their doctors. Oh, wow, they got on the wrong med for that. They thought it was just depression with some anxiety, but it's actually bipolar depression, which is different. And so change that the doctor give them the clinical eval and the info, and doctor will consider and then try them. And so you're working with all kinds of and other health professionals, holistic health or integrative, traditional, to help them. And there's always solutions. You just got to look for where, they're stuck and then what are the possible solutions. And if they figure out how to afford it and get there, they get themselves better.
Hmm. It's we all need help. I'm a firm believer in that. It's and
Sure.
it's not
Absolutely.
if you really soul search, you're going to realize that there's stuff that you probably need help with. Some more than
Absolutely.
others, but it's and because every personality is different.
Absolutely. We just have to be open to receiving it. And that is some of that, like you're saying, is having that self-esteem or opening yourself up to help. where you say, I'm good, I deserve good, and I'm moving into my good, and then just be open to receiving where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Accepting that there is good in your life, seeing the good, and that you deserve it. I feel, and I'd love your feelings on this, that many of us don't feel that we deserve good things in our life.
Yeah, yeah. That low self-esteem and replaying old negative tapes we've heard or experiences that we bring into the present.
Yeah.
And that we've got to that gets back to the cognitive behavioral therapy, catch that negative thought. And if you wouldn't say to a friend or family member, catch it and change it and put in, say, oh, everything I do is not worth anything, catch that. Wait a minute, everything I do is worth something, and say that to yourself. It's kind of like that glass of muddy water, your mind, where when you take a pitcher of clear water and you're just pouring it in, the mud is going to keep coming out till finally you do have a nice, clear, pure glass of water. So you're kind of training and reshaping your mind and your thoughts so that they will be pure and good. And then when whatever situation you're coming to, you can come from that place and create the good.
Do you feel that once you start doing the work and you identify what makes you tick, that when you go down a negative road in your mind, like let's say, oh, I'm overwhelmed, man. I got so much. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I'm not moving forward in my life. That you just turn your head and you think differently for a moment. It's like, yeah, no, we're good. We're good. That the time between those two is less.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, because we start to catch these negatives and
Right.
put the
Yeah.
positive, and it becomes more of a habit. And we even start to understand where our negative thoughts kind of revolve around, so that we just can catch it and just keep moving into, changing it and moving into our good. And just taking that time to just breathe, and just get to a place just where your body's feeling relaxed, and you're breathing, following your breath, breathing in good, breathing out your cares. And then everything seems different. It's kind of like a little vacation and you're just
Yeah.
giving yourself.
Yeah. It's like the reset
Mhm.
button. The reset button.
Yes. Hmm.
Always great talking with you. And
Good
the book
job.
is available. Actually, you have a few, and they're available. Best way to reach you, your website?
Correct. Yes. Psychology Today is a directory for psychologists. So if you just look me up on there, then under my picture and so on is a link for my website, and just click it and you just go into my website that way. It's the easiest, I think.
We all
Got everything.
deserve the good stuff in our lives. Start believing that.
Absolutely.
And if you have trouble
Absolutely.
believing it,
Bless it. Yeah.
people like you are there. And thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And you.
And we'll talk soon.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you,
everything's going to be okay.